Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is What's the Magic in Your Book conversation with authors who are doing some amazing work across the world. We have with us Max Nijst. Welcome, Max.
You said it. Perfect.
Yes, that's right. We've been trying to figure out how to say your name. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for having coming on our show. You have an amazing story and a fabulous book. We'd love to share that with the world. And as I introduce Max, Max is the author of Fearless Happyness. He's a fearless happiness ninja. And we're going to hear about his story from active addiction to sobriety. And that's about the book. We're going to leave that to him to share with us. And he has experience. He's a certified substance abuse counselor and have a BA in psychology from Agrossi University. And he's from California. We're going to hear all his stories and how he has been impacting lives through his work. So let's hear about your book. Max, tell us what inspired you to write a book.
Oh, that's a great story. So what inspired me to write my book was actually two tragedies that happened, and the third was coming. I didn't know, but what happened was, I got sober in 2003. I was looking at 3 years in prison, right? Because drugs and alcohol were my life. Like that, nothing was more important than me getting my drugs and alcohol. And,
wow.
I continued that for like the last 9 years of my use were the worst. That was probably the heaviest use. I pretty much abandoned my children, did not see them, and they could literally, Azeeza be in the house next door, but, the guilt and shame was so bad that, I just, in order not to feel the guilt and shame, I just kept continuing to self-medicate by, drinking alcohol and doing drugs. And, and then when I finally got sober, I started going through this process, what we call recovery or sobriety. And, I started attending AA meetings and, and working the 12 steps, which part of it, step 4 and 5. One is admitting all the wrongs I've ever done. Right. And 2, my sponsor, who's my mentor, and then to God. And then along the process, you do these amends, right? Like step 9 is making amends to do so to others, except when to do so would injure them or others. Right. So being very careful, like if I make this amends, say, I'm just using you. If I tell you what I did and I want to say sorry, but what I tell you, is it going to hurt you or your family or, whatever. So being very careful that you just didn't do it blindly. And that's why you walk through this process with another human being. So what happened, this all started about 10 years ago. I will be 18 years sober. So about 10 years ago when I was, about in 2012, was it 2000? I was about 8 or 9 years sober. I'm like, I want to write a book. I want to write a book, but I didn't know how. But I had this friend of mine who said, he sat with me. He helped me outline do the outline, right? So I had this outline, and then I would disappear on my friend. And you and I had this conversation about one of my mentors who just passed, right? He would always push me to, you need to get this book out. You have quite a story. You need to get this book out. So what happened? Time had gone by. It was 3 days after I turned 13 years sober. My sister would pass of Parkinson's disease. 8 months later, my brother would take his own life and lose his battle to addiction.
Oh my God.
Right. And so that was the push I needed, because I remember, those were 2 very important people in my life. And it was like, what am I going to do with all this stuff I have, like brewing, sadness and all this, and my mom unfortunately, like when my brother passed, she had just lost two of her children in an 8-month period. And I
Yeah.
watched her literally shrink as a human being. Like literally she died 6 months later, Azeeza, on Thanksgiving Day of a broken heart. That's the only way I can explain it. So, but in that time when I came, I was actually moving from California to Minnesota. Um, I got a hold of the friend who helped me put my outline together, and I said, I want to write this book. And he said, okay, let's do it. And then I connected with my friend who I just told you about, and we started working on it. And I found a guy who would help me write the book. I remember, like, on my way back from Minnesota, where I'd stop and I would get on the phone and we would go through the book. Like, for me, it was a healing process to get this, finally, all this stuff I had done into a book. And what I did is I just, I used the principles that I live by, that I learned in the 12 steps, and I put it into terms that anybody could understand, kind of like what they say in layman's terms, So like, it didn't mean that you have to be an addict to live by these principles. You don't have to have been an alcoholic to understand what these principles mean, because my goal was to show the world, to show people that you can get through anything without, in my case, putting drugs or alcohol in my system to numb the pain. And, then my mom would pass, and, I had just graduated from college. I went back to college. As you said, I got my bachelor's degree in psychology from Argosy University. I was supposed to walk that December. My mom passed on Thanksgiving, the month before. And so, I just continued on this path to get this book out, because for me, it was definitely a cathartic experience to actually see all this stuff that was going on in my brain and my heart and put it on paper. And I just wanted to show people that you can get through anything without having to damage yourself or hide or numb yourself.
Max, what you've just shared is about addiction, and addiction can be with anything, and the power of coming out of addiction stronger and bigger and greater, because you have a life to live, a purpose to be in, right? So that is so beautiful. And I can say that I'm feeling this is book for anyone who has got any form of addiction, and how you can come out of it with more strength as a human being and live life to the fullest. Because who do you intended the book to be originally?
Originally, it was, I thought about, okay, I'm writing this book for my fellow addicts, because here I cannot even tell you how many. I can't even count today, Azeeza, like friends in my own recovery who thought that it would be good to go back out and use drugs and alcohol and never made it back. Oh. And then as my 12 years as a counselor, the countless, like I call them kids because they're young, who thought, they got better while they were in treatment. They felt good. So they decided, they're going to go back and do it again. And, a month later, I'm getting a call from a wife or a husband or a mother or father, that so-and-so, used again and they didn't make it back. I've had many stories like that. So my first intention was to help them, right? Like, look, I'm just like you. You can get through anything. You don't have to pick up the drink and the drug. And then as I started talking to other people and people that were not in recovery that read my book, that said, look, I couldn't put it down because this can help me overcome my challenges I'm going through. And I'm not even a drug addict. And I was like, okay. So now, and working with other people and, like really, like you say, doing that inner work and diving deep and thinking about like, what's my purpose, right? Like working with alcoholics and addicts, I call that my passion. I'm passionate about that, right? But working with just people throughout the world that are struggling with anxiety, depression, PTSD, addiction, and helping them overcome their challenges, that's my purpose. I found that to be my purpose, and I want to live in purpose, on purpose.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. I'm really excited about how this book can be, available to everyone. So we'll put the link of your website on the page, on the comment box, so that people can go in and get your book and also work with it in moving forward. Is there anything else you want to leave the audience with today?
Yeah, like this is my thing, and learning and losing those 3 family members, and as recently as last 2 years ago when we lost our granddaughter at 3 months and a day old,
Oh,
and my son at 30 years old having a massive stroke because of his drug use and poor choices and poor eating habits. Is don't be afraid to ask for help. You know, don't do it alone. It doesn't matter, because I'm sure, like I've met like business owners and leaders and high performers who, because they have, that people look up to them, they think they have to hide it, like, and not ask for help because, look who I am. I own this company, or, everybody knows me as a high performer. We all suffer the same. And my thing is ask for help, because there's people out there that are willing to put their hand out to you and help you so you don't have to do it alone. That's what got me through all that, was the support I received from people, not only in my recovery community, but outside of my recovery community, that just like put their hands out and said, is there anything we can do for you, Max? And, because I saw that love and that caring, I didn't even think about putting, a drug or a drink in my system, which I could have easily done, but I chose not to because, then I wouldn't be there for my family.
Wow, that is so inspiring. And for sure, the book needs to reach everyone in the world with the kind of message that you have and the kind of energy you bring to the space with what you have. It's always the energy that goes into the book that creates the magic. And that's why we love people who have experienced life and sharing their wisdom with the world. Thank you so much, Max, for your time. And we really look forward to having more conversation with you and how best we can inspire the world with your stories. Thank you so much for being that inspiration.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone. So look out for the book and get his book and also experience Max and the work he's doing. Thank you. And we'll see you soon with another author.